is Short-Term Rental Management, the show that is all about short-term rental property management with your host, yours truly, Luke Carl. We did it. We have arrived. We've made it. It is official. It is the best-looking group I've ever had on the short-term rental management show. And it's an honor to be in the presence of greatness. You guys are all fantastic, accomplished hosts. And today we're going to talk about 2023 pricing. We are recording this in the middle of January. So we've got an entire year ahead of us to fill with, hopefully, quality guests. And we're going to focus primarily on pricing today. So introduce yourselves quickly and give me a brief rundown of your properties, where they are, size, square footage. I'll start on the top of my screen, which is Mr. Tim. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Tim Grillo. I actually live in the Smokies, but we have properties in both Smokies and Gulf Shores. So in the Gulf Shores, we have two 1-bedroom, 1.5 bath condos that are beachfront, small, like 750 square foot each. And in the Smokies, we've got a 2-2, a 3-2, a 4-3, and a 6-5.
Wait a minute. How many is that total?
Four in the Smokies.
Four in the
Smokies.
Like 4, 3, and a 2. Is that what were they again?
2-2.
Yep.
3-2. 4-3. 6-5.
All right, one of each.
Yeah, one of each.
Skip
Except
right
a
over
little
the
baby
5-bedroom.
one. We're getting a baby one this year. We're gonna buy a little. So
love it. The condos, are they in the same building?
Yes, actually next door to each other in the same building.
Do you find that to be advantageous having them next door to each other, or it wouldn't matter if
it probably doesn't matter. It's a little sexy for us, because they're right next door, and from a management standpoint, there's little things that are nice. We share, cleaners and handy people and stuff like that. But if they were right down the road from each other, it wouldn't really make any difference. So, but
yeah, it's just like playing Monopoly. You got the two green houses.
With condos too, you kind of need to know the building and the management and HOA and all that kind of stuff. So having multiple for us is nice there because we know the building well. So
wonderful. You also have long-term rentals?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. We may dabble in that conversation as well. All right, Joe, all right. Where are you physically located, and where are your properties, and what are they?
Yeah. So Joe Prilliman, I live here in Carolina Beach, North Carolina. We've got 10 doors, 10 short-term rentals here in Carolina Beach, another 6 up in Banner Elk, North Carolina. And the largest one we have is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath up in Banner Elk. So majority of my portfolio is 2-bedroom units, all the way down to some 1-bedroom and even a studio.
The Banner Elk deal is consecutive units, yes? It's almost what we would maybe consider a boutique hotel type situation, or can you describe that one to us briefly?
Yeah, it'd be similar to that. It's just essentially it's 6 condos, but it's the entire complex all the way down one line on kind of the side of a mountain. And so got 2 large units on each side and then 2 or 4 2-bedroom, 2-bath units in between them. And there's actually a 7th ADU on site as well.
What is the ADU? It's just an additional unit that's similar, or just built separately?
Yeah, just built separately. It's underneath one of the units actually, and it's a little it's like a 300 square foot studio. We have actually a full-time on-site person who lives there.
Can you separate these and sell them individually?
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're individually platted. They've got their own utilities, whole 9 yards. You can we closed them each individually as individual condos, and so you can sell them off if you want. But we just did the whole thing.
Why not townhome? It seems like maybe a townhome situation. Is the dirt owned by an HOA, or why is it not townhome versus condo?
So we do actually own the dirt. It's interesting. Essentially it is townhouses that are just labeled as condos. And
okay,
so
maybe is it a PUD of sorts, or just I'm overthinking it?
I don't know what a PUD is.
Okay, planned urban. I believe it's planned urban development. Is that right, Reagan?
Planned unit.
Right? Unit, not urban. Okay, yeah, especially in
there you go.
In the areas we're working in.
So we do have a larger. Oh, go ahead.
So it's basically where you own like just the land, but beneath like the structure, nothing like around it. Is a PUD.
Yeah. Yes, I believe that's true. You own the dirt underneath the 4 walls, and that's it. I own
maybe a little bit of like right away, but not. Yeah.
Yeah, you get an easement.
Yeah, there you go.
And then the
That's
rest of it is owned by the HOA.
I have one of
Huh.
those.
I do too. I have one as well, and this whole time I did not know it was a unit. Okay. Okay, cool. Carolina beaches. All right, wonderful. And then, so Reagan, where are you physically and your
Hi.
properties?
Hi, Regan Natho. I'm the little fish in this big sea with all these people with all these properties. But I live in Sevierville, and I have a 3-bed, 4.5 bath in Gatlinburg.
Wonderful. And I guess
Megan says she's a little fish, but she's like the most organized out of all of us.
she's definitely, yeah.
That's true.
You're the reason I'm using touch today, by the way. And I love it. It's awesome.
Life
And
changing.
I'm Luke, by the way. So I own 8 short-term rentals and a whole bunch of other stuff that we're not here to talk about today, but own the longest running Airbnb in the Smoky Mountains. Have about 4,000 reservations on my resume. I do have properties in the Smokies, 5, and Emerald Coast of Florida. I have 3, 4, 4? Yeah, 3. Yeah. 8 total. So lovely to have everybody here as we talk about 2023 pricing. And we're, again, recording this in the almost, I guess, the 3rd week now of January. My first question is, guys, in no particular order, whoever wants to take charge here, do we even care anymore about January and February? Is it too late to worry about January and February bookings? And also, where do I, as you know, relating January and February in general to possibly even next year, when do you take charge on these 2 months that we're living in right now?
I'll say, I think for January and February, I don't think it depends on the property. If you got, a big one right now, you're probably not looking at getting a whole lot of last minute bookings, but little ones, you can still get people popping in, wanting to grab a couple days here and there. That could still happen. It depends on where you're booked. If your weekends are all already booked, the odds of getting your weeks filled in are a little slimmer, but it could happen.
Yeah, I kind of have my weekdays at my bottom dollar, and if they book, great. That's just going to be icing on the cake. But for any dates I have open, but I'm fine with them not. So,
and Joe, yeah, your market's a little bit different than what I'm used to anyway. So what do you have happening over there in Carolina?
It's funny. It really depends on the weather. So if you're looking at Banner Elk, if there's randomly snow in the forecast, my whole week is going to fill up, and that's going to fill up last minute. And so if you can jump those prices a little bit, but most of them, weekdays, it's bottom dollar on there, and our weekends are filling for Banner Elk. Carolina Beach, it's similar. If it's going to be a warm week, they'll fill up. But it also just depends on the property. Like, they're beach properties, and so it's Memorial Day to Labor Day is kind of our time we're going to crush it, and everything else is really just kind of a bonus here in the off season.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like a broken record here, and if you're not booked, your prices are too high, because that's, it's repeated endlessly in this business, in this asset class. In my opinion, it is a little too late for January and February, even on a smaller property. You will fill up a little bit on a little 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom in my markets, because you can charge so little. You're probably not going to fill up on something 4 or 5-bedroom. I have toyed with the idea of, why not rent my, why can't I lower my price and change my number of people on a 5-bedroom to, maximum of 4 people, and then compete with a 2-bedroom with my 5-bedroom. Has anybody ever thought of going that direction? I know, Tim, you've got some larger properties. Is that ridiculous? I guess the downside there is 2 things. You'd have to manually change the number of people that you're accepting, and you can't do that for a period of time, to my knowledge. And maybe if you're using owner res, and then also I think the downside, and the reason why people don't do that, is because you're going to get some wear and tear on a big beautiful home. But at the same time, why let it sit empty? Why can't I just market it to 2 people sleeping in a bigger property?
We've talked about it, but we've never done it. We actually talked about putting the way ours is, our big one is, you could put a door in and block it off. And we actually talked about doing a separate listing for that, but we have not done it.
Have not done it just because you're focused elsewhere, haven't had the time, or
haven't had the time. And honestly, that one's pretty new that we just got it going. So we kind of wanted to see, what a full year is going to look like before we, really start optimizing to that level.
Reagan, I feel like Reagan, you're probably the voice of reason here. How big is your property again, and have you ever considered something like that?
I have a 3-bed, so I haven't really considered that. Yeah, I sleep 8 people in the 3 beds. It stays pretty consistently booked. But I guess like, so thinking about like logistics wise, like could you make a separate listing where like it was only available for X amount of time at that, at that people count, and then just block your other listing with the higher people count for like the amount of time?
Why can't Price Labs come out with a new? How about Price Labs? Please pay attention. Come out with a new customization where if I want to rent my 3-bedroom, like Reagan, let's take Reagan's 3-bedroom. Let's say I want to rent that to 2 people. It's less money than it is for 6 people, 8 people. Now, technically, you can do that on Airbnb and Vrbo and Price Labs. You can charge more per person, but that's where it gets real sticky, because somebody that actually wants to rent this thing for the purpose it was built for, 8 people, is going to get confused. So I think there is a lot of room to expand. I believe this would probably be coming from Price Labs, would be the best place to do that, into the number of people. We'd have a ton of minimum night stay customizations. Why can't we have more minimum people customizations? I think that could definitely help out in the slow season. Joe, have you ever thought of this?
So we do a similar concept for Banner Elk one. So we've got one large parent listing where we can have the entire thing rented out with 28 people, and then the individual ones underneath it that are run as smaller units. And so they're all individual freestanding units, so people can book it. And when they book it, it blocks out the other listing. But breaking it down,
you have separate listings though, right? You have a separate listing for each, like one for the parent and then one for each of the children.
Correct. That's exactly how we have it set up. And so we have that one actually set up much farther in the future, so we can get weddings, larger groups. And then when it does book, it blocks out the small ones. And then the small ones come through and kind of, if they start filling up, it blocks out the big one. And so we haven't done it from a even smaller level, I guess. If we take like our 3-bedroom and broke it up into, okay, now it can have 2 people in it. I could see problems running into like with cleaning fees, because you'd have to have like your cleaning fees automatically update on, unless they're coming in and using the whole place just with less people. But if you're trying to block out like a little section of it, I know a lot of our competition, at least, they have lower cleaning fees in those smaller units. And so like more people are kind of gravitating towards those. But no, haven't really broke it down into the beach market though, or how that would really work well. I think it's a great idea.
But your cleaning fee really couldn't be any less, because guests are going to use the whole house. Like that's just what people do. They're going to go
right
and everything. So
let's put locks on the doors. Keypads. Okay.
My landlord in college tried to do that, and the first thing we did was Jimmy opened the lock to the lock bedroom, and that was the one everybody crashed at whenever they stayed at our apartment. So.
College rentals, not what we're talking about, but they are interesting, man. All right, so I think there's some room for improvement there. I do. I mean, I don't know that it can totally revolutionize your property and your gross income, but I think it could definitely help when it comes to these ultra slow seasons. Again, most of us luckily are not really dealing with a huge period of time of slow season, which is great. But let's talk about that briefly. I mean, Avery talks about it all the time. Of course, Avery Carl, the boss. And in some markets, it's great to have some downtime, and I think that that's something that most people don't take into consideration. Man, I really like the mental break. Like, gives me. I find myself spending more time looking at property in slow season, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, mine are going to get busy soon, so I better hurry up and get something under contract, because I'm going to forget I'm not going to have the time when busy season comes in like a month, Tim, tell me about that. You're in Gulf Shores. Do you enjoy having a break, or talk to me as far as a newbie perspective on a year-round season versus not?
Yeah, absolutely like having the break. Gulf Shores it's a little different for us. Again, with them being small and beachfront, our break is actually kind of November, December. January and February actually stay pretty busy there. In those units. If you were, a bigger property that a row or 2 back, it's going to be different. But no, the break is definitely great. That's we actually usually go down there and spend some time and, do some, fix up. Those things they get ran hard during the summer. I mean, they are 100% occupied like Joe said, Labor Day and Memorial Day, those things are cranking. So it's, they need a little love in the off season, and that's kind of what we do with it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, and you're right. These things are going into battle, and we're going into battle too. And they're like they're soldiers in our rental portfolio, and it's nice to take a little breather. So that leads me to more on the same subject, which is the psychology of slow season. Especially for a noob. If I'm a noob listening to this call and I'm sitting there and I just bought a house last month, say in the Smokies, all three of the four of us have properties there. Two of you live there. I'm sitting there saying, oh my God, I made a mistake. I'm never going to get booked. How do I handle with the psychology of the whole thing?
Yeah, you really need to go into it kind of being a little bit conscious of when you're going to close and when slow season is. If you're going to close on a property, end of December, January, you really need to have some money set aside. As you get rolling and you get into, next year, whatever, you'll have reserves built up. Profit first is a whole nother conversation, but you'll have some money set aside for the slow season. It won't be as big of a deal, but first year you kind of, and that's a great thing to talk about with your agent about is, what the expectation should be going into, when you're going to close on the property, because it can vary drastically.
Which leads 100%. Me to, yep. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, it's 100%. It's like whenever you're listing something in the off season, our goal is to roll as many people as we possibly can through. And so we're not even really concerned about making a profit on those ones. We're trying to just get heads in beds, and 5-star reviews is the only thing we care about, because that's what's going to help us push our higher returns throughout the years, because we're buying this for a long period of time. And so I really want to set that foundation first. And so like Tim said, having those adequate cash reserves so you can cover some of that and doing everything you can to fill it, but understand that we're not printing money first week.
And there are guests that will seek that out. My brother, for instance, years ago, I remember he called me and he said, we're coming to visit you. I was living in Tennessee, and we're coming to visit you. We booked an Airbnb, and this was a new thing back then, and we booked. It was brand new. It was brand new on Airbnb, and they gave us a discount because they just listed, and he was like all jazz. Like
does he really talk like that?
No. No. I don't even know what I was talking like, but he talks a lot like me. We are brothers. Anyway, so, there are people that will seek that out. I mean, hell, you could even do that if you're not brand new. Of course, they might see through that. Wait a minute, this isn't a new listing special. You got 78 reviews, yeah, I mean, you gotta list it low when you're brand new, right? What else are you gonna do if you don't have any reviews? Nobody's gonna believe that your property's any good, So, common sense, I suppose. How far in the future are you guys available right now? Middle of January again. And I vary it through the year, but I'd love to hear your perspective on, do you set your calendars at 6 months, 12 months, custom? How do you do it?
I do 6.
Why? Do you not have a reason? It's okay if you don't.
No. I used to set it at a year, thinking that like people would be vacationing like in December, be like, oh man, like I want to go there again next Christmas. And so like I would set it at a year so that people would maybe take advantage of that. But I never really booked out that far. And, with as fast as things can change, I just don't like being open too far ahead, just in case I need to tweak something or something's not right, or there's always like a miscommunication between listings and your channel manager and stuff like that. And so just trying to not, I guess, open myself up to so much possibility for there to be a mistake.
You feel comfortable there at the 6 months? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Joe, where are you at?
So I do a little custom. We typically like to open everything from like Memorial Day to Labor Day. So all the way down to Labor Day, really between like Christmas and New Year's, because that's when everyone's just kind of sitting there looking at their phones. And from there, I always like to price it high personally. And so for me, like I'm trying to really fall in that sweet spot about 2.5 months out. And that's kind of the main thing we do. So we do it seasonal, but we base it off of when we think people are really coming. And then kind of halfway through the summer, we'll start opening up the rest of the year.
And Tim, where's your calendar right now?
So it again varies a little bit per property. The bigger one, we're still experimenting with that. We do have that one open a year, just on the kind of thinking that with it, it sleeps a lot of people, that people will plan ahead a little further for that. The smaller ones are in the 6 to 9 month range, depending on the property a little bit, but that's where we are. We do use the Price Labs feature too of far out pricing, and where you can bump it up a little bit. And so you can go in there and customize, if it's further out than X amount of days, you can put X percentage on top of the normal Price Labs price. So we do use that feature as well.
I agree.
Yeah, I also use that occupancy based adjustments on Price Labs too that can kind of help you out. So if it sees that you're, super booked 3 months out, it's going to start bumping up your prices so that you don't, accidentally take, too low of
something Reagan said too earlier about a reason not to have it open too far out is just the hiccups in the road with all the softwares. We have had stuff hit recently of stuff that was open way far out and it got booked way cheap because of hiccups with certain booking softwares that we had to reverse. So that can be a pain, and that's another reason to not maybe have it booked out too far, or open too far. So
I actually do a little bit of a hybrid. So on my Airbnb and Vrbo, I select the all future dates button. It's slightly different name on Vrbo, but that's what it's called on Airbnb, all future dates. And then what I do is I go in my management software and I block dates that I don't want to rent. The reason I do it this way is because if you do 6 months or 12 months, you pick, on Airbnb and Vrbo, a period of time, every day a new day rolls open. And then I've gotten caught with my pants down a few times on major holidays where, it, like let's say it's the day after Christmas, and then next thing you know, somebody books next Christmas for next to nothing. And again, there's other ways to fix that besides what I'm talking about. I'm sure what Reagan's doing is making sure future dates are high. You can also create seasons. I'll bring the season thing back up here in a minute because I do use seasons, especially for huge holidays like 4th of July and Christmas. But this time of year, I do a custom calendar all year, if you will, with the all future dates. And then I'll go in and block whatever dates that I don't want to book. And you got to block all the way like to 2025, 2026 on your management. So this will be done on your management software. So right now I'm available through second week of November. Was that calculated? Yeah, to a certain extent. I figure, I don't really need to bother dealing with Thanksgiving right now. It's so easy to book high dollar vacation week. I don't really want to bother with it at this point in time. It's probably too early in my opinion, to be dealing with next year's major winter holidays. Now, that being said, if you are open that far in advance, nothing wrong with that. There's no reason why you can't be open that far in advance and just price your property high. That's one strategy, if you will. I just don't want to actually deal with it in my life. I'm not ready to be booking next year's holiday guests. So I just have it not available. I do have the 4th available. I did slowly creep that open, right? So what I did was I don't let my March open up until like mid-December-ish. I mean, hell, I've even had March blocked until all the way up until maybe even the end of January at times. But I did open it a little earlier this year. And I opened all the way up until the end of June. And then I waited another month or so, and I opened up July and August and September. And then I said, you know what, screw it. I might as well go all the way until the middle of November because, first 2 weeks of November are kind of hard to book. Nobody really wants those dates that much. So that's kind of where I put it for right now. I kind of toy with it. I play around with it based on mostly, I suppose, how much I want to deal with it, because if you have those high dollar desirable days available, there's not much room for error. If your 4th of July is available right now and your prices are not right, you can get burned. I was in a situation.
Speaking on the holiday, or
yeah,
go ahead. Now, I was gonna say on the holidays, exactly to that point, I do go in Price Labs and, select a pretty long, whatever it is, a 7-day window or whatever, like around the 4th of July, and put a 5-night minimum on it or whatever. They can vary and up the prices. I do that quite a bit ahead of time. And I'll have.
Are you doing this with a manual block, or are you creating a season?
I do it manually in Price Labs, where I do it in Price Labs where you just click on the dates, and then you just set up a customization. I do it. I like using the percentage based, so I'll up it. Again, depending on what it looks like, it could be 30, 40%. And then that just kind of usually holds it out, that pretty well blocks it off. And then as it gets closer, if you need to reel that in to get it booked, you can do that.
Joe, why are we laughing over here? I'm laughing because you're laughing.
It's the exact same way I do it, but
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person who doesn't allow Price Labs to be connected to everything that I have. And so
you
we
don't
look
use
at it
Price
all the
Labs on
time.
some of your properties?
I look at it all the time, but I don't have it. It does not have control. We actually manually do it on ours.
Really?
I know. I'm the black sheep of the group.
Explain to me, what are you talking about? So you have it connected, but you don't. I don't understand. What are you getting at here?
So we just log into Price Labs and you can see like what the prices they would have it set with the settings you had, but I don't give it full control over the individual listings. And so we look at it still so we can see what they would suggest from more of a percentage standpoint. And then I just feel like we have better returns with our enemy method and our spreadsheets. And so we do it all manually.
Yeah.
Historical data. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
That's savage. That's savage level stuff.
Dude, this is
I got burned. I got burned doing this.
All right, we got so much to unpack here. I mean, first of all, why would you? This is a lot of work. Why'd you get burned? What happened?
I got burned whenever the COVID craze hit because all my stuff was booking out at my super high prices because I booked them too high to begin with, and then I found out my neighbors were getting double my price. But I made up for it a little bit when kind of some of the COVID craze started to go away, and we were able to recognize that earlier. So we cut our prices quicker and we're able to fill our units. And so it was very interesting, but we were able to notice it, but Price Labs would have saved us on some of that big uptick initially.
Okay, wait a minute. So it would have saved you, but you don't use it? I'm confused.
It would have saved us for that one specific instance, but I feel like we're still getting higher returns.
So what you're saying
without
here
having
is
it automatic.
You have it hooked to your property, you're just not syncing, and you're using it as basically another form of enemy methoding.
That's it, to the T.
Wow.
We got spreadsheets, the whole 9 yards.
Are you pricing both Airbnb and Vrbo separately?
So we just do all the pricing on the management software, and then we have Vrbo bumped up a little bit just because their fees are a little higher. What's your management software? I'm still using IGMS.
Well, there's nothing wrong with IGMS. I just did a podcast on I love it. It's great. It's the OG.
The OG, baby. I'm there.
They were the very first one to get the Vrbo inbox integration, and at least to my knowledge. And I used it for years. I still think it's great. So that's fascinating. So again, what we're talking about here is property management. That's what I think people don't realize. You're a freaking property manager. What, I got to hit you over the head with a used, burned up 2x4 from the house that you own to make you understand that you're managing a property here, and Joe is doing it his way, obviously having ridiculous amounts of success, and it's working for him. Wow, you just blew my mind. If you like what you're hearing, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, you can join me on a live weekly call to talk about your next short-term rental or ask questions about the one you already have. I am live once per week on Zoom and would love to have you come and say hello. It's strquestions.com. That's strquestions.com. Come and join us. Reagan, did you have a point that...
I can't believe you're updating all of that like manually.
It's wonderful. My wife and I, we have like a big meeting every year and we go through it. We're like, okay, what are these weekends they could do? And then, we manually do the
communication skills
like this.
I don't think I could do it.
Oh my goodness. Marriage. All right. So, wait a minute.
We need to do a podcast on that.
We will. It's just happening. But you didn't hear that from me. Anyway, and Tim, I'll have you on that one. I mean, who knows? That one might be tough to get the right guests. But anyway, where was I? Oh, so do you feel more confident that you're going to have less mistakes by doing it this way? Is that why you're doing it that way?
Yeah, pretty much. It keeps us comfortable on it. Like we feel like we can do the price a little better and we can kind of see the market a little bit quicker than other people. And we like to get premium prices for our units because we have the nicest units on the island. Like that's our goal is we're trying to kill it. And we want the people who are willing to pay that price. And we have less problems with guests. We have happier guests. We get better reviews. I don't want something else going in there and cutting my prices and then having someone in there that trashes my place when I've spent all this time to make it as nice as I can.
Perfect example to back up the reason why you're doing it this way, I think, is because what happened to me recently. I priced my big beautiful beach house in the middle of like the 1st of January, right there, second week of January, a little low to try and get a little traction. And I didn't look at it for about 10 days. And I went and looked at it, and the whole freaking summer booked in like 9 days. And I had to go through these reservations, and I was like, dude, some of these are way too low. So I think what you're saying is a foolproof way, albeit maybe a little bit difficult way to prevent that from happening. And be careful with that, guys. If you're sitting there saying, oh my God, I'm not getting any bookings. What did I do? I got myself into this house. It's never going to make any money. Take it from me. I priced it a little low just to get some attention. A week later, I come back and the whole summer was booked. I ended up having to ask several people to cancel. It worked out okay. I did my math, and it was like 122 days booked in literally like a week. And yeah, it was pretty rough. I ended up with 100 and off the top of my head, don't quote me on this, but it was like maybe $107,000 in that 120 something days. So my this is a big, beautiful house. So my price per night was pretty spot on, but there was 3 or 4 these, for whatever reason, they were all in April, where I had to go in and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to need to ask you to cancel. I was able to get all 3 of them to cancel. But yeah, so, it should give you some hope. And I think, Reagan, you mentioned something about being very well booked right now too. So where are you at?
Yeah, I have been. I actually am 100% occupancy for January, which I've never been. I don't think I've had that all year, to be honest. And so I know that we're talking about spring, but I'm going to kind of go back to the January, February thing. So I've been working on trying to get January booked since November. So making sure, looking at what the other properties around me are booked at, and trying to be, have super competitive rates over the months I knew that were going to be slow. And, it's worked out in my favor. I've booked well. I'm really happy with the gross, per month that I'm doing. So I'm really happy with that. So.
All right. So wait a minute. Hold on. 100%. This is Smokies. 100% booked on a 3-bedroom in January. I think there's a lot of people out there that want to know how you did that.
I mean, that's what I did, though. Genuinely, like in November, early November, started looking at my enemies and wanted to make sure I was priced really competitively, with everybody around me, and just kind of, paid really close attention to what they looked like, and they just kept booking, and I kept taking reservations.
What about headlines and descriptions? Did you find your enemies were still focusing on the time at present time, and did you push your descriptions and your titles further?
So I don't really do that. Yeah, not really. I just highlight my property's good attributes. I have a 3 all king suites property, so I just highlight those things, real simple, easy to read description, or like headline for my property. I don't really go in and do much as far as changing the description in my listing for per type time of year. I just keep it short, sweet, simple. This is what you're getting. Take it.
That's cool. I do. I change my description, my headline, usually my headline, based on not necessarily time of year, but I change them up quite a bit. I like that evergreen way you're doing it there, because I will say that, again, back to the not looking at my prices for 9 days, there is more than I would care to admit where I go look at my description and it says, Halloween special, and it's already Christmas, because I just forgot, so very interesting that you're doing the evergreen, because everybody always talks about algorithms. So if you're never changing your description, are you changing it a little bit, just not making it season specific, or?
Yes, I go in and I'll add a word, delete a word, every once in a while in the listing. I also like to go, I don't know if it does anything for the algorithm, but I like to go into Airbnb. They've been changing things a lot, since early in the year. So I just go in and I click through all of the settings just to make sure there's nothing new, nothing I don't have marked that I could have marked, for a amenity that they've added, in the search. And so about once a week, I'll just go through, and, it takes me couple minutes, and I'll just click through all of the settings and just make sure I'm happy with where everything's at. I do think that, like, from an algorithm standpoint, like, the best way to get your property boosted in the algorithm is to do like a price, something with your pricing. Like, obviously, like, tweaking your listing kind of makes you show up on their radar. But really, the pricing, I think, is really what gets you the boost, at least for Airbnb, is what I've noticed. So a lot of times when I have, I know I'm going to have a guest check out. So I'm hopefully going to have a review in the next couple of days. So I'll go in, and if I have some open dates, I'll drop them to my bottom dollar. Hopefully they'll get it booked, and then it'll boost me in the algorithm, and then other dates start to fill in. Just something I've noticed.
Wow. You guys are all blowing my mind. Let me go around the room real quick. I'm not starting an argument here. Just want a little bit of perspective. Is that a Stanley mug? I love those things. Yeah. Beautiful. Little perspective. Tim, start with Tim again. You're on the top of my screen. Airbnb versus Vrbo, your personal preference. Again, not starting a war here. Just get a little perspective.
Honestly, I love them both. I mean, They're definitely different. The Vrbo guests tend to be older. And I hate even saying that, but it's been around forever.
That's all. I mean, that's it. So you're 50-50, give or take.
Yeah, and we're to the point now where we're getting booked about 50-50.
Okay, great. Joe, do you have a preference?
It used to be very diehard Airbnb, and now I'm saying I'm about 60-40. 60% Airbnb, 40%.
Okay, Reagan, where are you?
I don't really have a preference, but I've worked really hard to get that 50-50 ratio of Vrbo to Airbnb, and I'm real happy to have it. So I don't know.
Okay,
I don't think I really have a preference.
All right, beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Let's talk major holidays as they start to approach. Do you guys have a lot of March, April action thus far, or you're on the beach there, Joe, and Tim, you're also on the beach. Much spring break action yet, or are we still waiting on that?
It's starting to hit for me. We major, I'm sure they all have this, but Gulf Shores has a lot of events on the beach. There's a bar down there called the Hangout Fest, and there's music festivals, and those are starting to book at pretty high prices already. So we've already had that stuff hidden, and spring break's just starting to trickle.
You have a strategy there. Do you just keep it super high and wait till they, dangle in a carrot kind of thing, or how do you do it?
Price Labs does a pretty good job of keeping on top of that. And I'll be honest, the events, our first couple of years, we really tried to keep track of when they were and where all that. And I don't know, it was a lot to keep track of. And we just kind of found we'd get a booking and it was really high. And we're like, what's the reason? And we'd start Googling what's going on that weekend, and we'd find out there's something going on. And Price Labs already had it marked up really high,
It's a fine line between this thing completely taking over your entire life and never making any money, isn't it? It's it's somewhere right in the middle. Joe, how are we doing on the holiday, the upcoming, Easter-ish spring break?
I keep them so high that I'm getting just a very few trickles right now.
Just a couple nibbles.
So, couple nibbles, and it's mainly just because those dates are going to book, and so I like to keep those high all the way up through, even coming up to even 3 weeks beforehand. Because if everybody else is booked,
are you trying to say that in your market, can you pick your own price? I mean, what are we looking at?
You can't pick your own price. No, it's down between the units too. And it's more of, I just want to hold out for the person that's willing to pay a little bit more for it. Because there's always that one person that wants to do it, but we'll start lowering the prices as they get through. And I like to drop them a couple dollars at a time too, of nothing major, of just enough to kind of hit a couple things out there in the algorithm. And we found some good success with that. And so I will say I play a little closer to the edge than most. We're normally in that 3 to 4 week range.
He's a rebel, ladies. Look out. I mean, I've raised my prices and gotten a couple of bookings from doing it in the past. I had that the other day where I raised my prices quite a bit, actually, and got a booking in 5 minutes. Whether it was related or not, I can only assume. Reagan, how are you looking for March, April right now?
Yeah, I'm about 50% for March. Pretty slim for April still, but I have that still pretty, priced pretty high out there. So I'm happy with where I'm at right now. And one thing I do like to do, with Price Labs, you can do your base rate, and then that's what it uses to calculate what rate. So if I'm booking, like I'll sit there and kind of like what Joe's saying with like for a couple dollars, I'll like bump it $5, then I'll bump my base rate another $5, then I'll bump it another $5, and then at some point you kind of stop getting bookings, and then anyhow, so I kind of do a little bit of that too.
Yes,
you can always go down. You can always go down on price.
You can always go down on your price.
It's harder to go up.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you guys. I'm pretty well booked in March and about half of my April, give or take. Maybe less than half in April across the board. Of course, I do have 3 beach houses, meaning they don't really get booked at all in the wintertime. Beach, that I just coined a new phrase. So a beach house does not get booked in the winter. Now, Tim, yours are little condos, so you don't have what about snowbirds? You take a snowbird, or you're not doing that?
Yeah, we got snowbird in one, and the other one we just leave on the open market right now.
And when do they leave?
February, end of February. So
okay.
We don't let them stay for March.
Sometimes they do like to stay for March. Yeah,
sometimes they like to, but we found that March is valuable.
Right. So by then it's time to get on down the road. You need to go in and paint staircases and things when the snowbirds leave, or is he generally in pretty good shape?
No, there aren't any there. So.
Oh, no staircases. Okay.
No staircases. No staircase in a 700 square foot condo.
Go ahead, Reagan.
How did you find your snowbirds that are renting it?
The one we have right now was actually what's the word? Inherited from when we bought the place. In the past, we've had people reach out from Airbnb and ask to rent it for a longer period of time. And even the one that we have that's on the open market, we have some what I call snowbird lights in there, where it's like they're booked for like 2 weeks, so.
Would we recommend this on a larger property? I don't find that that's something I'm interested in doing on my beach properties because they are on the larger side, and it just doesn't really happen, quite frankly. Joe, do you snowbird in your area at all?
I try not to.
Your properties are a little smaller, I think, right?
They are, and so I mean, it's definitely set up pretty well so that it could. But for me, I like the few bookings I do get. I want to keep my cleaning crews busy. Like I want to keep everybody like still. Hey, I'm the one that's trying to make sure we all get fed in the off season. Like, it's just not. I like to be able to go in and do work on them too. And if we want to change some staging stuff, get new photos, all that jazz, like that's the best time to do it. I'm doing a sewer line right now because I have an old cast iron pipe that broke and got to get that fixed. And so you can't do that if you're booked up with someone in there. And yeah, we like those things.
Interesting points. The keeping the housekeeper busy is big. It is because they are, I mean, they're not getting much of anything from anybody else at this time of year. And if you throw, if they get a booking here or there, I'm not saying you want to lose money on the booking to keep your housekeeper busy, but it is important. Rehabs, interesting that you bring that up. To me, I think it's a little late to be worried about rehabs for this year, but yours are already underway. I'm not saying for you personally, but if somebody listening to this is like, oh crap, I can spend the next month doing this and that. In my opinion, maybe a little late for that. Guys, do we have time for last minute squeeze the juice here on some rehabs or no?
Starting one next week.
Oh, but it was premeditated, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was planned ahead of time.
Yeah. When did you book this person to do the job?
A couple months ago.
Yeah, same here. I've got actually a floor job and ripping out one of the infamous Smoky Mountain jacuzzi tubs. My last Smoky Mountain jacuzzi is coming out next week, baby.
Heck yeah, we're taking 2 out.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm replacing this is my tiny cabin. It's 600 square feet. I'm replacing it with a washer and dryer, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
It's in the living room, right next to the kitchen, across from the bed, which is also in the living room. And I'm going to put a slab of granite from the same guy that did the kitchen on top of the washer and dryer so that I have more kitchen space on the inside, and then on the outside they can do their laundry. I think it's going to be awesome. And no nasty ass jacuzzi tub.
Is this a heart-shaped jacuzzi?
It is not heart-shaped. I would consider keeping had it been heart-shaped. I
think there's going to be a market. There's going to be a vintage market coming for them. One of these.
I like them. I think somebody can we get a modern? Do they still make these? You know what I mean? Every time I see one, they're old and nasty.
Just refinish it up. Get it done red. It'd be beautiful.
There's a market for that. If anybody listening right now is looking for a gig, become the new Smoky Mountain heart-shaped tub guy. I think that I would do that. I would
They
do
do
that.
make a jacuzzi that's not like the jet, like the old school jets. That's more like in the bottom of the tub, it's got little bitty air holes, and so it like makes the air come, and it's much cleaner, easier to.
Oh.
They're expensive, but they're nice.
What
But
about
they probably
a
make one.
what about a heart-shaped freestanding tub? These are all the rage now. The freestanding tubs, almost like a modern version of a clawfoot.
Sit together with your feet at the end.
Absolutely,
It's adorable.
I would be into it, man. It's like Dumb and Dumber.
I'm not getting.
All right, where the hell were we? What were we talking about? Okay, further into the
Talk about maintenance though. Like, so May is what I'm thinking about. So, because like you said, it's kind of too late to get all your stuff planned now for this slow season. So I already know May is going to slow down a little bit. So I'm having my cabin stained in May, and any other big things.
which is a perfect time for that because they don't like to stain them when it's cold outside.
Yes.
So good call on
And I
that.
know May's
May,
going to be slow anyway.
right, May does slow down. Let's talk about that. Why does May slow down? And is there anything? This is probably the time to be preparing for that now, I would assume.
So, May's going to slow down because it's after spring break. Everybody's back in school, but people aren't quite let out for the summer yet. People are planning graduations, into school. Lots always going on in May. So it tends to, at least in our market here in the Smokies, it tends to kind of slack off a bit. Fantastic time to come, though, because the weather's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And I have another theory. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're coming out of February and we are now booked like crazy. And it's like, oh, yeah, I got this little money maker out there that I forgot about. And now I don't have to do anything for the rest of the summer. So 2 months go by and people get comfortable and then they forget all about the fact that May comes and like kind of smacks you in the face. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. I probably should go adjust my prices. So it's one of those, it's a sleeper month, Joe, it looks like you have something.
No, that's great to know for my mountain ones. I haven't really noticed a slowdown with ours in May, but it'll be really. I haven't had a full season through the summer in my Banner Elk ones, so I'll be keep my eyes open for that one.
Absolutely. All right, so then let's talk huge holidays. 4th of July. How do we market 4th of July? Is it open? Obviously, probably now. And I am open now. My prices are through the roof. I create a season for 4th of July. I don't create a lot of seasons. I'm talking about on Price Labs under customizations. You can do a season. I do a season for 4th of July. I do have a season for January and February, and it's based on size of property and, of course, market. And I do not have one right now for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I may implement one this year. I've always kind of stayed away from them because I felt that I could do a better job just doing it myself with the manual override, the black line, or just paying attention, quite frankly. But lately, I've decided that the season is probably a good idea as a safety net. As the 4th of July gets closer, I can go in there and say, all right, this season is probably pricing me way too high at this point. If it's not booked yet, maybe I need to maybe turn my season off and kind of adjust. So that's kind of how I'm looking at the 4th for right now, because it is, especially in the beach, in the Destin area, in the 30A area where I'm at, it is almost kind of pick your own number, to a certain extent. Obviously, you can't go like $7,000 a night, but you can go pretty high where I'm at. So I do have mine way through the roof, offensive high right now. And I plan to leave it there, for the foreseeable future. Any other thoughts on the big holidays like that, guys?
Kind of same. I just do it different. I just, like I said before, I kind of go on the calendar and manually click those dates, and I do a percentage-based price up.
With the black lines. That's what I call it.
Yep.
Yeah. So. Okay. So you have it black lined right now, or you have it set really high and you'll black line it later?
No, it's high. I'm not blocking it off usually. Some people do that. I just never really have. But it's just set high.
No, but by black line, I mean when you click on Price Labs and do that manual override, it's got a black line going.
Oh yeah. No, it's doing that right now. So.
Oh, you got one right now. See, that hurts my OCD a little bit because to me, it's almost like that black line is a Band-Aid and I need to go in there and sweep it up at some point. I do use them, especially if I'm in a hurry. But And it probably is, quite frankly, the easiest way to do it in most cases. But for whatever reason, it does hurt my brain a little bit. Joe, how are you handling the 4th of July right now?
Very similar. I'm okay with the fact that I get a majority of my 4-star reviews on our really high weeks
Oh,
like
Lord.
that because
You went
we
there.
charge too much. We charge too much. And it's wonderful because they're willing to pay it. But yeah, I do the same thing. We charge it high. It's guaranteed to book. It's just what's going to happen. And I still like to do what we were talking about earlier, where we're a couple months out, because at that point, that's when people are really starting to get desperate for it. And so I keep them high, and I even let people bring dogs. And so on those ones, and we'll charge them extra pet fees for that too.
Date specific pet friendly is what you're saying.
It's more of if someone wants to bring, I only let people bring 2 dogs. If someone wants to bring 3 or 4, we'll allow it, but we're going to charge them to do that because no one else will do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Very rare this happens. Very rare. But
well, yeah, not to get into the review Pandora's box, but that's another call for another day. But the big holiday guests are just not going to leave good reviews. It's just it's almost impossible. Reagan, what is your strategy, if you will, for 4th of July right now?
Well, I don't have it open yet, but I think I might open it now since y'all have been talking about it. Definitely inspired me. But I kind of handle though big holidays the same way Tim does it, where it's just manual override. But I haven't looked at like the percentage overrides, which I think I might look into. So I'll try that out.
Because you're 6 months, so you're open till about June 18th right now, I would assume, is right? Is my math is right? So yours will come open in the next 2 weeks. That's what worries me about having the rolling calendar, is that next thing you know, 4th of July is open and I forgot all about it. So, and that's another reason why the season on Price Labs can be a backup plan, because even if it's not available now, if you have a season created in Price Labs, that season will take effect as soon as those dates do become available. So do you have a season set up, or?
I don't.
No safety net.
Yeah, no safety net.
Okay, then we need to get it open. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Yes.
Or put a season. That's probably what I would do. Just leave the 6 months.
But she is 100% in January.
Well, listen,
she is. I'm taking notes.
Dude, I mean, that's insane. Everybody that watches this is going to be hitting you up, just sliding into your DMs, being like, "Hey,
like it's really good." Like I don't know.
It is good. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So, let's talk about the 6-week rule. Years ago, not that long ago, maybe 3 years ago, I made one of my very first YouTube videos. It was the 6-week rule, which was something I lived by for most of my career. And what that is I want my calendar to be booked 6 weeks in advance. And that was true all the way up until COVID. COVID wiped that out. 21 slowed it down a little bit, but I didn't really notice. It wasn't something that came to my attention. And then 22, most certainly, I think everybody will agree. Maybe you don't, but feel free to chime in if you don't. It was more like 3 weeks. It was like cut in half how far in advance, even on a big property. And I think my take on that, and I'd love to hear your guys' take, is that I think that just there was some more options. People couldn't travel overseas for a very long time. They couldn't get on a cruise for a long time. And then, so I still did book very well in 22. My numbers I was very happy with. They were much better than 20 and pretty right on par with 21. And I think we're in other words, it's a steady incline with a big old bump there on 21, but it's not that big on my incline. It's just a little bump. And I think what happened is that more options became available. And so people were a little more choosy or a little just naturally a little more last minute on where they decided to go. So I think personally that 23 is going to go back into that normal, towards the normal direction, which for me is 6 weeks. Now, again, Airbnb has a statistic 30 days in advance or less. For 90% of all vacations, 30 days in advance. So 1 month is really, if you live by that statistic, you really only care about the next month of your calendar. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that. Market, size of property, arbitrage. If this is a hotel or like a apartment building unit that you are putting on Airbnb, your in advance bookings are going to be much faster, less than if it's a big giant house on the beach. You're only going to be like 2 weeks at some points, maybe. Depends on the time of the year. Also depends on your pricing. If your prices are really low, you'll be booked further out. If your prices are where they're supposed to be, that was kind of how we gauged it. If you're booked about 6 weeks out, you priced your house right, is how I figured it. With these big houses, little more notice than 30 days. On these luxury, if you will, the way we're doing it here with these big, for most people's purposes, big, nice houses. Where do you guys see that going? And were you affected by that in 22? Did you see that they were less in advance? And what's your prediction for this year? Start with Tim.
I definitely saw it. I definitely saw it. We were affected for sure in 22. It was much quicker, a lot more last minute bookings, and shockingly, even on some we didn't have our big one open most of the year, but our 4-bedroom was open, and even that one we got a lot of shockingly last minute bookings in 22. As far as prediction goes, I don't really know.
We lost him. That's all right, Joe. You take over.
All right, I'll keep rolling with it. Similar track that Tim was getting on, actually, is about how it feels more like 2019, in all honesty, from like the actual booking timelines. But 2022 did affect us. It went from you can't stop these people from coming in to, hey, we're going to make all last minute stuff, especially with the small ones. And oh, hi, Tim, I can see you again. But it was the same thing. It was within a week on a lot of my really small units of people just at the very last minute. And that has slowly gotten farther and farther back out. It also changed the whole, switch it back to really more like what a season should be. And so like, I shouldn't expect 100% occupancy in my beach properties in December. It's just not necessarily how it's been. It wasn't how it was before the COVID craze. And so now it just feels a lot more, normal, if that makes sense.
Reagan?
Yeah. So, same thing, especially in the summer, I did not expect to have so many last minute bookings over the Smokies. Cause usually, like the 6-week window was usually what I tried to, adhere to. And I had stuff, creep in the, 2 to 3 week window, and I, get a little bit nervous. It would end up booking, but it was definitely a much shorter lead time over the summer and the Smokies for me last year. But, I'm just trying to focus on that 6 weeks window for this next year.
Let's say I'm a brand new investor. I bought my first short term. I don't own any long terms. So this short term is my only experience in real estate investing. And 21 was my first year. 22 was my first year. 21 was my first year. Okay. Do we have any words of encouragement for somebody who doesn't know what normal is? Yeah, Tim?
Biggest thing I'd say is these are all, we get in this for a long-term investment, and there's going to be years that are up and down. And so as far as what's normal, you got to own something a long time to even pick what's normal, in my opinion. So, you just gotta work harder at it. I'll say some years more than others, but really if you work hard at it all the time, you're going to generally do well. So you just gotta be ready for some ups and downs, because they're going to be there. When everything's up, it makes you feel like a rock star really quick.
Absolutely. Joe, any words of encouragement for some noobs?
Yes. I'd say daily consistent action and invest it back into yourself as much as you can. Like absorb more content, spend more time. Like you've got one unit and you're brand new at this. Like you don't want to be trying to like figure out how to pull yourself out of the system. In fact, you should really find out how to get yourself more in the system so you can know it better. So that then when you get to a point of where you want to pull yourself out of like the day-to-day grind of all of it, that you can see the people who are doing it right and the people who aren't. And so like now's the time to learn, like use this time to really invest in, okay, is it all about that first photo? Is it all about like the phrase I put at the top? Like learn all this content, make those little changes because you can do it and you've got the time. And if nothing else, it's going to push you in the algorithm. So you're going to be more successful.
Are we in danger in any way of people listening to us to the point where, not us, but the people that are creating content, et cetera, to where all the houses are so awesome that nobody can get booked. What are your thoughts there? It seems to me like impossible, but I do feel that people are worried about that. Joe.
Asking me specifically?
Yes.
I would say that most people I meet try to slap it on there and do no work and make as much money as they can. And so the amount of poorly done products that are out there compared to the number of ones that are actually done at a really high level, it's just no match. I mean, there's so many more people that don't do it well that if you take a little bit of effort, you can beat them.
Are you saying that the folks that I'm referring to might not realize they're not doing it well?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
I would say more so like unless you can like get to a point where you're taking some extreme ownership of it, of like, I'm going to make sure that this property is going to do well. If you take that stance with it, you're going to crush it across the board. You could not be successful if you really took the time to look at the people who are doing well in your market and copy what they're doing. They've already laid it out for you. If you did that alone, you'd do great.
I agree. I'm maybe a little too involved in our own little world here, because in the grand scheme of things, this is a small world, and I get discouraged when I see people being down on themselves and on their properties on Facebook, etc. But at the same time, I have to believe, like, are you really taking the steps necessary? Because guys, you got a room with 4 people in it right here that are telling you, we're for all, not no better way to put it, we're crushing it, quite frankly. And yes, I do agree. It goes back to extreme ownership. Reagan, any advice for somebody who just got into this or maybe got into it when it was, raining?
So yeah, so definitely, treating the management of your property as a business, it's not something that you can just set and forget. You always have to be, constantly improving, constantly trying to be better, putting your best foot forward. It's not necessarily all about, being like the best property ever, like, having to renovate, put all this money into and stuff like that. Like, it's working with what you have to present the best product that you have, be the best manager you can be the, have the best listing you can have, always having that, want to improve and want to be better, and learning from, we at the short-term shop, have this amazing group of like a buyers club that you have all this wealth of knowledge from all these. I mean, there's nothing like it, like in what we do. There's no culmination of the knowledge that we have from all of our investors that you can just sit there and just learn. It's like a like a think tank. I don't know, like it's got everything you could ever want to know, pretty much, if you just sat there and read through it all. So just always improving, always to be the best you can be would be my
I agree.
advice.
The risk of making that sound like a commercial, the Buyers Club is absolutely insane. It's the culture in that Facebook group is second to none. I mean, and it's taken a lot of work and from everybody in this room as well. Well, I guess it's a great time to mention all 3 of these folks they sell houses. That's what they do. If you want to buy a house, hit them up, man. In the Smokies, you got Tim and Reagan, and then Joe is in Carolina Beach. They'd be more than willing to help you out, and we bust our ass, So we're just happy to give back. And Reagan, I'm glad you I wasn't going to, but I'm glad you brought up the Buyers Club, because I get a little soft spot, a little tear in my eye, because it has been so much work. And just early mornings and giving to get that to where it's to where it is now. And of course, our other big group too, the short-term rental, long-term wealth, named of course from Avery's book, My Lovely Wife. All right, enough with the plugs, if you will. Guys, one more exercise before we go here, if you don't mind. Please pull up your price labs. If you have an opportunity, I'd like to hear your low, middle, and high numbers on your properties, also the size of the property and location. And I will start. All right, I've got let's go with I got a 4-bedroom in the Smokies. Again, this is mid-January, guys, so don't hate on the hate, don't hate on it, all right? Because my prices are going to be a little low in some cases right now. I got a 4-bedroom in the Smokies, middle number 370, base. By middle I mean base number 379. I got a min 179, which is too low, and I have no max. I've got a 2-bedroom in the Smokies. I've got a base of 199. I have no min, no max. I'd say that one's probably right where I want it to be right now. I would say I probably adjusted that recently. I have 2 of those. Won't bother you with the second one. I have a 1-bedroom in the Smokies, middle number 149, no min, no max. That's a little low. I'll probably bump that by 10 or 15 bucks. Let's go to my beach properties again. It's dead season, which means I'm not really worried about bookings right now, right? So I should probably at this point need to have my numbers. It's a little weird right now because I need to have like my min number kind of based on what's going on right now because this is dead slow season and that's what the min number focuses on. But my base number needs to be kind of an average of what I have open, which is as of right now all the way through until about November. So I've got a 4-bedroom in the Forgotten Coast outside of Port St. Joe, base rate $529. I like that number. My min is $189. And I'll be honest, it's not going to book in January and February for $189. It's just not going to get any eyeballs. But that $529 is going to come in handy once March starts to kick in. I got a 3-bedroom townhouse. Min $199, base $269. That's a little low. I need to raise that base probably by $289. How do I know that? Historical data. I listen to Joe. I do what he does. And just memorize all this stuff. I made the mistake of hitting save and refresh, which as you guys know takes a minute. Oh, here we go. 4-bedroom in Destin. Min 239, base 599. I think that's right where I should be right now. That base will slightly go up here and there, maybe even come down a little bit, maybe around mid-May. But I think that's a pretty good base for my season. Matter of fact, I'm going to look at see what Price Labs has me at 476 market-based mid-scale. So I'm higher than that right now. I got a little room to go down on that one, but I don't really have a reason to right now. And that's pretty much it for me. I got a couple of them in there that are similar properties that I won't bother you guys with. But Tim, what do you have as far as size of property, min, low, and base?
All right.
Base, low, and min, whatever, the 3 numbers.
Yeah. I know what you mean. All right. So the beach, the 1-bedrooms, base is 240. Max is 580 and min is $75.
This is a condo?
Yeah.
How many bedrooms?
1-bedroom, 1.5 bath.
5 how much?
580.
Is the max or the min?
The max. The max.
Okay.
Yeah, 240 base. Only time it really hits that max is really peak summertime, but it does hit it. And I've actually had to put a max on that just because it puts it stupid high without it. And also the 75, it hits that right now. I mean, this time of year we hit the $75 number, you know. So anyway, both the condos, those are both the same. So there's 2 of them at that. Let's go to the 2-2 in the Smokies. 2-2 in the Smokies is a 120 min, 240 base with no max. It doesn't, you know, I don't know, for whatever reason, the Smoky stuff, I haven't had to put maxes on as many of them. They just seem to be more.
What's your base on that?
Base is 240.
Okay. The same house, similar house. I'm at 200. So
Yeah.
I like where you're at. And if that's working for you, no wrong answer there. Love it. What else do you have?
All right. The 3-2 in the Smokies is actually similar to that one. It's a 240 base as well. And they're about the same square footage, house. Just one's got another bedroom.
So it's a big 2-bedroom.
And yeah. It's a 2-bedroom with a loft is what it truly is.
I've been in that house.
Yes.
Has a ridiculous view. Your house is definitely worth. If I'm at 200, that house needs to be at 240 at least, because it's much more of a 2-bed. I mean, that's more of a 3-bedroom really, and it's got a killer view. Yeah, I remember that house.
No max on that one. 145 min. And the 4-3. So this is a small 4-3. So it doesn't really have a proper game room. But it's a 200 min, 335 base, and no max.
What's your base?
335.
Okay, I'm 379 on a 4-bed, but it is a very large 4-bed.
Yeah, this is a small.
A little over 3,000 square feet on mine.
Yeah, mine's just over 2,000. So
it's all stuff you got to take into consideration. Joe, you got too many properties. Don't do them all. Give us some highlights.
Number 1, disconnect Price Labs from it directly. And then I've got minimums for my 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms in Carolina Beach. Minimums are about 75. Base is about 199. And then if you're up in Banner Elk, the minimums are at 80. The base is 149. And I don't have maxes on any of them.
talk to me why you went small on these properties rather than mid or large. Size of property I'm talking about.
Cost of entry originally.
Okay. Yeah.
That was the main reason behind it. And then I got my groove from when we got started. We knew small properties in and out. We're like, let's not recreate the wheel. Let's just do what we do best and start picking them up.
Love it. My early days, I also was buying small because I didn't have any money. And then as I grew, I did start getting a little bit larger properties. And then, of course, eventually grew into multifamily. But I do love those small ones, man. What's that?
I'll grow up one day.
Well, you're already there. You got a 6 unit, for all purposes, that is a 6 unit. So, you're already there. But I do agree with in hindsight, what I'm saying is that my goal was to get to the bigger property, but, I just love my little cabins, man, especially that little one that I'm ripping out the tub. That thing is, I don't even have to think about it. It's gravy. Reagan, where are you at on yours?
So my min is 200. My base is 415, and I don't have a max set. And so that's on a 3-bedroom, but it's in a really nice neighborhood. I have a view, so that kind of area commands a little higher rate.
Wow. Now you're fully booked January. Can you pull up, or do you know what kind of price per night you were getting for the January on this thing?
So like 200 was my lowest. I don't have like an average. 200 was my min, and then I've got like some 298
in January on a 3-bedroom.
Yes.
This is a nice house, huh?
260, 287, 282. Yeah.
I want to be like her when I grow up. That's incredible. Love it.
But going back to like the smaller properties though. So I started with, the smaller property and then sold it and intended to 1031 exchange it into a large property. That things didn't work out. But anyway, that is a way, a stepping stone for people that, if your barrier to entry is, obviously money, these things cost a lot of money. So start with the smaller property, get your feet wet, it's your, college 101, how to run a short-term rental. And if you want bigger properties, use them as a stepping stone.
All right, guys, listen, you said it all. We've done it all. Give me a good book that you've read recently, Tim. No pressure.
Good book I read so far or recently. I don't know.
Yeah.
My brain hurts right now. I'm not coming up with one. Come back to me.
All right, Joe, what a good book you've read recently?
I have been listening to Do the Impossible by Jason Derees. It's been pretty good.
That's the new book he did. What was his big book?
Yep, that's it. Getting a little
what was
mindset
he had a big book.
Ooh,
what was his other book?
It's
about negotiating.
That was Chris Voss.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yep.
Did you have another one?
Another great book. No, that's it. I'm good right now.
Reagan, any books you've read recently that were awesome?
So I've been trying to, improve myself as a real estate agent, and one of our amazing agents, Derek Tellier, he recommended this book, so I've been reading it. So The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So it's about changing minds and being the best you can be. So
I actually read that book, even though I am not an agent, and it is awesome. I recently read a book I would like to throw out there. I read Mel Robbins' book, Take Control of Your Life, and I am not afraid to admit that on the internet. It's a fantastic. I'm a big Mel Robbins fan. She also wrote the 5-Second Rule, but I just read that's her biggest book, Take Control of Your Life. Just finished it yesterday. Fantastic. Tim, did you have one for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Wealthy Gardener. That's just finally. That was actually just kind of that's when I listened to the first part a couple times and just finally wrapped it up. So
it's incredible.
Yeah, great book.
I actually just had this conversation a little while ago with somebody, and we neither one of us knew for sure. Did you fancy that a fiction book? Is it fiction or is it a true story?
I assumed it was fiction, but
I did too.
I don't know.
But I don't know that we have a way to prove that. We'll have to Google it. Anyway, you guys are fantastic. We didn't even get to fall. I guess we'll have to do another pricing call at the end of the summer-ish. But long story short, I think to wrap it up, the more you pay attention, the more money you're going to make. As simple as that. We are managing properties here. But at the same time, guys, don't overthink it. You're just managing a property. Do what you got to do to put the asses in the seats, and good things will happen. Thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll see you soon.